Like, not to get too serious, but like, you know, I had to watch my back.
Yeah.
Just being a woman in the industry. Every day I would go to work and I'd be like, I wonder if someone's going to try and force themselves on me today. Or this is just an example of like the wild behavior that men would get away with on a regular basis in tattoo shop. The reason I opened a studio is because I wanted to work somewhere where I felt safe.
Why did you choose to go down the hand poking technique rather than using the guns?
Honestly, because even though I was working in a tattoo shop, it was not accessible for me to learn how to tattoo because I was a girl and I was a body piercer. So in the words of the men that I worked for, you're a woman. They said, you're a girl and you're a piercer. What business do you have being a tattooer?
Is that, would you say that's a sign of the times, like 10 plus years ago? Or like, because I feel like every tattoo parlor I've been near, I'll always see like good female artists in there as well. So I don't know if
women absolutely dominate the industry nowadays.
Okay.
Like, we fucking smash it.
Yeah.
Like, we are living our best tattoo life.
Yeah.
I remember, like, I swear the only famous tattoo artist, is it Kat Von D? That's the only one I could name.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I don't know if...
But the thing is, I got into working in the industry probably 5 or 10 years before people really started having conversations about the safety in spaces in tattooing. And tattooing just generally, when I started, was a male-dominated game, especially like a white male-dominated game in the UK, especially. But yeah, it was just one of those things where I worked in a tattoo shop. The men were tattooers. The women were piercers. The receptionists were women. And you were kind of put in your place if you ever wanted to be
branch out
other than that.
Yeah.
So it wasn't accessible for me to learn with machine because nobody would teach me. And I was also in Soho in London back in the day where it was like really intense tattoo scene, you know, because there's so many good artists, but also it was cutthroat. It was a cutthroat world. And then tattooing kind of shifted a bit because obviously, like, you know, there was that whole Me Too thing in the movie industry years ago. And then that whole Me Too movement in the movie industry sparked the conversation of Me Too in every industry, right?
Yeah.
And tattooing, because it is obviously like, you can be a tattooer, you can legally go and get a tattoo license and you can be legit. But tattoo shops are still very much like gangland.
Are they?
You know, like, yeah, of course. Everyone runs their shop the way they want to run their shop. As far as like, you know, like, it's my, like when I ran my shop, it was my way or the highway, right? And that's fine if you're working for someone who's fair and doesn't want to take advantage. But I feel like a lot of people, especially back in the day, and I'm sure it still happens now, that old school way of tattooing can be like borderline abusive sometimes.
Right.
Especially if you're trying to get into it and learn, especially if you're, you know, like a minority in tattooing, which is anyone who isn't a white man.
Right, fair.
So yeah, it was just difficult. And especially being a woman, from my experience, like, not to get too serious, but like, you know, I had to watch my back.
Yeah.
Just being a woman in the industry. Every day I would go to work and I'd be like, I wonder if someone's going to try and force themselves on me today, or
Really?
they're gonna, yeah, absolutely. I used to work in a shop and I used to go downstairs and one of the artists would be waiting for me and he would be masturbating.
What?
And he'd like ejaculate when I would come into the
What
room.
the fuck?
But like, yeah, like wild shit. But like, I know that that's a very extreme story and it's all right. I've had therapy. I'm okay. But this is just an example of like the wild behavior that men would get away with on a regular basis in tattoo shops.
And that's rife, like, not just like your experience, but that happens a lot.
Oh my God, yeah. Like,
Really?
all the women, the reason why I started Femme Fatale, my tattoo studio 8 years ago, I shut it now, but the reason I opened a studio is because I wanted to work somewhere where I felt safe. And ultimately, me feeling safe meant me predominantly being around all women and queer people.
Yeah.
Because, yeah, like tattooing was just... Obviously, not all tattooers are like this.
No,
I'm not going
no.
to generalize,
No.
but there was definitely a toxic culture where a certain type of man could use tattooing as a way to prey on vulnerable women or vulnerable people, you know? Because it is, like, if you go and get a tattoo, say, for example, I'm a big dude, right? And you're a little lady. And you come and get a tattoo from me, and you've never had a tattoo before. You don't necessarily know the rules. You don't know what's right or what's wrong. You're in their space, and you're vulnerable at the hands of them.
Yeah.
It makes it very easy for the big scary, but for the big predatory man to essentially
Take advantage. Yeah.
And it's happened so many times in this industry to people who work, women who work in the industry, women who are just coming in to get tattoos and are just coming in to want to, you know, get something done, get something nice. But yeah, it is.
I had no idea that it was so rife with stuff like that.
Right.
Yeah.
Like really bad. Like to the point why you see so many like queer femme dominant spaces nowadays, because I feel like women who have been working in the industry longer than 5 years, and I'm not saying it doesn't happen now, it does, but like back then, like today, for example, I worked before I came here, and I went and did a day at my friend Nicole's studio. And Nicole, do you remember back in the day, London Ink?
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you remember the Kiwi lady on that? There was like one lady on it.
Right.
They were all dudes and there was like one blonde girl.
Okay, right.
That was Nicole. Nicole's been tattooing for like 35 years or something crazy like that.
Okay.
So, and I've been tattooing for 15 years, just for like context, right?
I literally do remember, yeah.
Yeah, okay. So I went and worked with her today because I used to work at her studio back in the day, and I went and did like a little full circle guest spot with her, which was really fun. But we were just catching up and talking, and these conversations women have on a daily basis in tattooing, you know, just about like the culture of like predatory behavior. And I was talking to her about, you know, what it was like for me. And then she reminded me that, can you imagine what it was like for me? When there was no technology, there was no Instagram, there was none of that, and there was no women tattooing. And it was like, and it was like it to a certain degree when I was coming up in tattooing, but especially when she was coming up in tattooing back in the day. It was like, you've either got to fight your way to get there or you got to suck dick to get there.
Right.
It's like, choose how you want to do it. And me and Nicole chose to fight,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
How do you persevere through that? Like, how do you just keep going,
It's ups and
knowing
downs,
stuff
bro.
like that's happening?
It's ups and downs because you don't go through it unscathed. Don't get me wrong. Like, I've had my fair share of experiences within tattooing, which, you know, just made me think that men are trash in general. But I don't know, because when you're young, like I was, and you're 18, and you go into an environment where you naturally just idolize everyone around you because you want
they're where you want to be and stuff like that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And you are young and you don't know any better. And I found myself getting myself into situations in hindsight as an adult. I was like, fuck, like, I wish I could go back to that girl and be like, don't do that.
Yeah.
Or don't go with them,
Yeah.
you know? But it's just trial and error, you know? But for me, not that I had to do all of this to make it better for the next generation of tattooers, but the reason I wanted to open Femme was because I didn't want anyone to have to deal with the toxic environment that I had to deal with at big points in my career, you know. But there's a catch-22 as well, because I was speaking to one of my friends who's a shop owner as well, and it's like, this is where it becomes very difficult with like, do you hate and love the old school or do you hate and love the new school? And it's like, there's pros and cons to both, right? Whereas like nowadays you have people in tattooing who are just like completely entitled and don't think that they have to work hard to be a successful, popular, rich tattooer, because that's essentially what I feel like a lot of people see tattooing as nowadays. Like it's become popular, right?
Yeah.
And people think that you can make good money and it's easy and it's glamorous, and like, no, like you can make good money, but it's not easy, and there is definitely more unglamorous moments than glamorous.
Right.